Hello everyone, welcome back to Strike Me Pink. A week off, but we are finally back into it. We are the South Australian Sports Podcast, named in honour of Ken KG Cunningham and his famous catch cry. Strike Me Pink, I'm Ben Hook. I'm with the number one sports presenter in South Australia, Tom Wren. We're big on opinions, short on time. Tom, good afternoon. Did get big on us last week, didn't it?
It got massive, yeah. Big week and, look, a really good one for the Crows, which we'll touch on. But it's great to be back, Hooky. Looking forward to another really good weekend of sport coming up, albeit some events have already started.
Swans, the Geelong story carried on. I know you had plenty of time in the newsroom. We were trying to, cover all sorts of bases. Unfortunately, we couldn't even find time for our own little 20 minutes, and it is very late this week as well, but we're back into it. I'm looking forward to it. Let's get straight into what is ahead of us over the course of the weekend. The wildcard round for the first time in the history of AFL footy. Collingwood and the Western Bulldogs in a couple of hours from now. Melbourne and Carlton tomorrow night. First of all, mate, you like the concept of going from a final 8 to a final 10?
I like it. And tear me down, Hooky. I'm more than happy for you to rip me to pieces, but I like it. And I think it's going to be one of those things in 3 or 4 years where people say, yeah, this actually works. People generally don't like change. And I understand why there has been a bit of resistance, but I think this will be a cracking weekend. I mean, the AFL clearly love it because they're going to make a bucket load of cash with 90,000 plus for each game, given Carlton and Collingwood's drawing power. But I don't mind it. I know it was a bit weird this way where the top 8 was decided and then, the top 10 actually was decided a week or two out. But I think it will be better in future years, and I quite like it. I love the romance of Carlton and what they can do. In fact, I think they'll win. So I'm all for it. You, Hooky?
It is. I'm a big fan, okay? And I can understand everyone saying you only have to finish 10th out of 18 teams. That does reward mediocrity. But we have had this problem in the AFL for 2 decades now where if you're outside of the best 12 teams, so if you're in the bottom 6, you're not even trying for the second half of the year. And we have so many dead rubbers, and we have these colloquial names like the Matthew Cruiser Cup where 2 teams are trying to lose to land the number 1 draft pick. Now, that's still going to potentially be a part of it. But the fact that we have a side like Carlton that is 1-8 and can still legitimately pursue a final spot, love it. Think it's amazing. I think it's great for the competition. I think it's great for the fans. Look, there is a little asterisk here, but I think we're going to get to the end of this weekend, and even its greatest skeptics are going to say 90,000 back-to-back at the MCG. If we get 2 good games, it's going to be very, very difficult to be overtly critical of it. Understand the other side of the argument, but I'm a fan.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think we'll get 2 crackers this weekend. And I think, Adelaide, actually, I think we'll be hoping Melbourne can get over Carlton, which we'll get to. But I think it's a great thing.
Let's get straight to it. We understand the permutations. Adelaide will play the highest ranked winner. Who do you think is their preferred opponent?
I think it's Melbourne. I think with Jake Lever out, I think with Jacob Van Rooyen out, they're an intercepting marking team from defence. With Lever out of that team and with the firepower the Crows have got, I just think they've got to be too powerful for the Ds. I think they match up reasonably well against the Bulldogs. For me, Hooky, the nightmare scenario for Adelaide is Collingwood.
Yeah. This is maybe tough to say, but if Collingwood is coming here next week, I think Matthew Nicks deep down knows that he's probably going to get out-coached. There is something about Craig McRae, isn't there? Premiership coach, seems to be able to pull rabbits out of hats. We know his record in close games. And I think Nixie will just be relying on sort of crossing his fingers and hoping that his team can sort of work it out themselves out in the field. And that's an unfortunate situation that Adelaide finds themselves in. But that would be my big concern for Adelaide, is if they take on Collingwood. And you know that from a boxcraft perspective, you're probably going to find that Collingwood are going to find Adelaide out next week. But who knows? It's going to remain to be seen. So your tips tonight, you think it's... your tip tomorrow night is Carlton?
I think Carlton.
What do you think?
Tonight, I'm going to be made to, I'll have egg all over my face. I'm going Collingwood just. Again, I think they're both really good coaches, and I know they're missing a couple of players, but I think Quaynor back is important for Collingwood. I think he just shores up that back 6, and he's actually a better player than what I gave him credit for a year or 2 ago. So I think he's significant for them. I know they're still missing a couple of others, but I just think the class of someone like Dacos, I reckon before last week, and I don't think they were going that hard, the Pies against Brisbane. There was nothing on it for them. I think they're going okay at the moment. I think they'll win them. Probably win by 2 or 3 goals.
Okay, I'm probably thinking the other way. I reckon the Western Bulldogs are just starting to come right at the right time.
Love it.
And the loss of Pendlebury will hurt Collingwood.
Yep.
They are a lesser side in the midfield without him. We understand Nick Dacos is a genius, but you need your best players on the field at this time of year. And yes, Western Bulldogs got 1 or 2 out as well. I'm not going to give up on Melbourne yet. I think, and this is the one thing I really love about this weekend, is that we've got 2 pretty much 50-50 games. I think you could make a case for all 4 teams to go through. I just think that Melbourne have been by far and away the better team this year. Carlton have been amazing in the last, 13 weeks. It's quite incredible what they've done. If you take the Josh Fraser ladder alone, they're top, even ahead of Fremantle, which is an incredible statistic.
Yeah.
But I just feel like Melbourne is a better team. And yeah, they're struggling with a couple of injuries on the way through, but class, I expect to stand out there. Talking about class, Tom, I'm not convinced we saw enough of it from the Port Adelaide Football Club. We might just review their season now that it came to, I guess a bit of an exciting finish with that win over Essendon in a tight result. But overall, it's been a disappointing year. If you could grade it, what would you give it?
It's a really good question. I think I'd probably temper it with expectation, injuries. So, throwing it all in the melting pot, it's hard to give them a pass.
Yeah.
But because of everything that happened, it was a low bar, and it's going to be with an asterisk on it. I'm giving them a C-, and I'm being generous, I think.
I'm probably more like a D+.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a C-? C- sounds so much better than a D+.
Doesn't it? And I think we're both on the same wavelength. There were some great positives. I thought they were competitive for most of the losses that they had, particularly early. I can see the game plan evolving under Josh Carr. I can feel like, as a fan and as someone just enjoying watching them play and commentate the odd game, I can see what they're working towards, and I like it. That said, they won 7 games. That can't be good enough, can it? But they had bucket loads of injuries. I saw the development of some players. So there's a lot to like, but there's a lot they need to improve.
What's the one thing that you just look at Port Adelaide, you say, yes, they're ticking that box? What's their biggest positive as they head towards 2027?
I love their game. I love their defensive structure. They're hard to score against. I know they got done, but I think they had boys in their teams in the last probably 3 or 4 weeks. And the reason they got away with it against Essendon is because they're similar, or they were similar for that game at least. I love their structure. I think I can see a player in Jack Whitlock. I think he's going to be genuinely good. I think he is going to get there. And I can see the development of some players. My concerns are their depth still is a problem. They're obviously going to lose Zach Butters. And I might be jumping the gun because I want you to have a crack here too, Hooky, but the fear is they'll get a good deal for Butters, and I think Butters wants them to get a good deal. He loves that footy club.
Yep.
But it's that old saying, he's a bird in the hand's worth 2 in the bush. Butters is a gun. He's a star. And they should theoretically get a couple of guns coming in, but there's no guarantee, Hooky. You and I have seen it too many times where number 1 picks or top 5 picks, they end up being not so great. So my fear is they get that wrong. Now, if they get it right, they'll be okay. And I think they will be okay. But there's still a lot that they need to improve. And I think it was laid bare, and we'll talk about their wins and losses against Melbourne. When they played against a genuine side, they were humbled badly. Like on their own home deck, they were well beaten, which shows they're miles off still.
Biggest positive for me, Mitch Georgiades, I think, is 3 years away from being one of the great AFL forwards.
Yeah.
And Jason Horne-Francis is becoming that prototype midfield forward hybrid player that could be one of the great AFL midfield forwards. So I think if you can build your worker bees around those 2 superstars, and they're going to get some decent picks in with Butters. There's even, and I heard this story, and look, I'm not great on the trade system and drafting and all of those sorts of things, so you might argue the toss with me here. But if they can convince Butters that Richmond is the best deal, but they maybe do a bit of a deal with Richmond to say, I tell you what, we will accept the free agency offer of pick 5, but we want to package, let's scratch each other's back here. We'll package up pick 4 and pick 5, give that to you in return for your pick 1, and then we'll use pick 1 on any player that isn't named Dougie Cochran and still have enough points around the place to be able to pick up Cochran.
Cool.
that would actually turn around Port Adelaide's fortunes pretty quickly. But, that remains to be seen.
And great call on Hornfront. Hooky, I've said it maybe once or twice to a few mates. He's my favourite player in the comp. I love Jason Hornfront. I just do not understand the hate for him, but I think he's already a gun. I thought he was a bit stiff to miss out on the Australian. I understand it. If they do better, I think he'll make it. I think he's going to tear the competition apart with the pre-season next year.
Biggest fear for Port Adelaide?
That they get it wrong with the draft. And that, with this trade that they're going to get done for Butters, they don't get it right. And if they don't, they're in trouble because they need talent. They didn't have great top-end talent in terms of numbers anyway, and they're losing probably their best, if not top two, So they've got Butters, Georgiades, you touched on, Jason Horne-Francis. Who's the other one? Maybe Miles Bergman.
I mean, he's probably
disappointing.
Just dropped a few rungs. From the elite maybe to the very good in AFL footy.
And Aaliyah maybe, who's at the tail end of his career. Let's be fair. My fear is if they don't get it right, then they're going backwards big time.
Just too many C graders for me. I think the bottom half of they've got 5 or 6 guys on the field most weeks that probably are lucky to be getting a game at AFL level. And whether Carr has the capacity to raise their level, I think will be the great challenge for him going forward. Best win for the year, I would have to say it was the showdown victory, even though, they had a huge win over Essendon early in the year. But that showdown, that home showdown victory in their Prison Bar Guernsey was something pretty rousing.
Brilliant. The only one that I think rivals it, I had 2 written down, is the Geelong game round 7. They were manic that day and they humbled them. They should have won by 10 goals. If they can play like that, they're a bloody good team to watch and they're hard to beat and they tore them apart. And Geelong have bossed them. Geelong have actually bossed both sides for a long time. And I thought that win was really spectacular for me as well.
What was their worst loss? I probably penciled it as the Sydney game, which they lost by, I think it was 97 points.
Yeah, and the week after, I thought against Melbourne. Now, I think selection had a bit to do with that, but you could just tell 10 minutes in, Melbourne kicked the first 4 goals and you went, and we see it a lot at amateur level and, lower levels, but it was men against boys and you went, they are no chance today. And they toyed with them. I just don't want to see any of that next season.
7 wins this year, Tom. Could they do any better than that next year?
I think so. Yeah, they lost a lot of close games. Remember, Hooky, Sydney, West Coast. The Sydney one was here, of course. St Kilda a couple of times they could have won. Bulldogs, I reckon there was a close game. I reckon there were 5 or 6. They won a couple of, like the showdown. No, the showdown wasn't. They lost the showdown, a close one. Win 2 or 3 of those and it turns pretty quickly. I think, Hooky, they can be aiming for 10 to 12. That's ambitious, but I think they need to aim there. And then see where it goes after that. Injury run, all of that. But yeah, I think they should be aiming north of 7 for me.
Excellent, mate. Lovely review. Let's get into one of our favourite segments of the week. It is the stock exchange. It's where we buy, sell and hold any sporting commodity around South Australia and beyond. Tommy, I might get underway. There's a game between Collingwood and the Western Bulldogs tonight. As I said, I think the Western Bulldogs have got something to hang their hat on here, and I reckon it's going to be on the back end of Ed Richards. I reckon his stock is going to climb over the course of the evening. I'm buying all the Ed Richards of Western Bulldogs I can right now.
Oh, I love it. Okay, I'm going to buy Trevor Gleeson. I think he's doing some really good things with the Sixers at the moment. They are working, and we're going to talk about the Sixers in a moment also, I think, but he is working the tails off. I love it. I think the Sixers, I know they had a high bar from last year, but I think the Sixers are going to go to a whole new level this year.
Went within a basket, really, of winning the whole thing. That was, a thrilling Game 5. They've changed the coach. There was obviously some issues in the locker room between the coach and the players. They've got the best player in the league, Bryce Cotton. I feel like they've signed some big stars around him. That's a really good one, Tom. Very, very observant. Trevor Gleeson is kind of a nobody in this town at the moment. I reckon by about Christmas, he'll almost become a household name.
I love it.
He'll be South Australian. We'll be working out that he's got a grandma who once travelled to Bordertown and had a holiday there, and therefore he's South Australian. One of my favourites. What are you going to sell? I'll tell you what I'm going to sell. I think Bo Webster's international career is about to come to a screeching halt. I think there's a couple of things that have hurt him. One is that Cameron Green finally found some form and some in his own skin, is starting to feel a little bit more relaxed at international level. He's had that wobbly period, and that's why they've been giving Bo Webster this extended run. But I think now that they've got their all-rounder, they're going to do away with their number 2 guy. Plus, I just think he's been found out at this international level. I watch him really closely, Tom, and I'm a bit of a student of batting, a bit of a nerd in these sorts of things. But he has a backlift that goes out towards gully. No problem if that's where your backlift is, but you've got to be able to reroute the bat pretty quickly so that it comes down straight. He has a real challenge with that. Exactly, yeah. So people who watch us on YouTube will see exactly what the signal you're making. And he gets balls on the stumps that he misses way too routinely because his bat's still coming in from that gully third slip position. So, yeah, I just happy to sell Bo Webster right now. I think he's been a great servant for Australian cricket for the limited time he was there, but his career is closer to the end than the beginning.
No, I like it. I'll sell the Hawks. I think they're going to struggle against Freo, and then they probably run into Geelong, and that's 50-50. So I'll sell them, but I'll also sell, and I hope he wins, but because he's at the moment earning the $10 million US, I'm going to sell Min Woo. He's top of the pops.
8 under this morning. Did you see that he was paired with JJ Spawn, and JJ Spawn got injured in about the 5th hole and left the course?
Yes.
So he's played the last 13 holes on his own and shot 8 under. People will start to query whether he was marking his own card, Tommy, the way he torched it up there. It was just superb. So, yes, we'll watch with interest the Tour Championship at Eastlake. Really interesting, Tom. It's a great point you've brought up because the Tour Championship has been completely blown up on the PGA Tour next year again, but it needed to. You know, they've never got that right, and we're going to have a match play component in 2028, and I'm really looking forward to that. Very good. I'm going to hold the Melbourne Football Club. It's probably for all the reasons that we've talked about earlier. I just think they find a way past Carlton, and then look, who knows? They come to Adelaide. Don't know, you don't know what you're going to get from Adelaide, and then they might run into Sydney in a semi-final. They could still find themselves in a preliminary final from the wildcard round yet. I think that's a lot to expect, but I'm not going to write them off just yet. You?
I'm going to hold. I'll hold a couple. I think both Al Clarkson and Ross Lyon.
Yeah,
I think they're almost at the crossroads, both of them. They both need big 2027 seasons, both big names. And Clarkson, we know, the pedigree is amazing, what he did at Hawthorn. And they did improve this season, but I think there needs to be significant improvement again. In fact, they have to make the wild card for me next year. Same with St Kilda. Anything less than top 10 is a big fail.
I believe in Clarkson. I'm not so convinced on Lyon. I just wonder whether St Kilda may be looking for another coach yet again. They sort of seem to go for the Messiah complex. You'd accuse that of Clarkson as well, but Clarkson's record is vastly superior to Ross Lyon, and I feel like there's been that little bit of progression each time with North Melbourne. St Kilda I'm worried about. I don't know if maybe they've maxed out on what they had. That is going to remain to be seen, but very well identified. Tommy, we're going to do a very quick version of the 3-word verdict. I'm going to give you a topic. You're going to give me 3 words to describe how they're tracking. Sydney.
Stock dropped sharply.
I've said they'll eventually return. Things always bounce back over the course of time, but they've got some challenges with them at the moment. Live Golf.
On life support.
I said Live now stands for lost its value. Zach Butters as a Port Adelaide player.
I will still go with, I'm going to go with 4 words. One of Port's greats. That's 4 words.
That's good. I think that's fine. Because I'm in a similar idea here. I've said best since Treaders.
Yep, that's fair. He's right
maybe
there
that's harsh on Kane Corns, but that's where I'd have Zach right
and
now.
Robbie Gray, I think in there too.
Nathan Lyon.
Father time, catch him.
End is nigh.
Yeah,
is what I've got.
He's always been a great fielder and a good side, but he's starting to look old, and he's only 40.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, they're all looking a bit old, aren't they?
An amazing career, but he just looks about done, doesn't he?
We'll talk about the cricket over the next coming weeks as we head towards South Africa. Marnus Labuschagne.
On borrowed time.
Yeah, already the end for me. The Thunderbirds 2027 squad.
Looking solid.
Yeah, 4 in 5, I've said. I reckon that's a premiership team once again next year. And you've touched on it, but the 36ers 26-27 squad.
Love it. Yeah, Bull Kowal is going to be a star. He's the Bryce Cotton stopper. And they said, you know what? Instead of him stopping us, we'll get him. He's a gun.
Lots to like with the 36 is going to be a great summer for them to follow. Now, Hookie's Local Sport Minute, Tom, you're never going to guess who was in the Grange Golf Club A-grade plate club championship final. So I'll just give you the quick run over. Alex Steedman will play Ross Hendrick in the men's A-grade final. Amelia Winnie will play Sophie Cannizzaro in the women's final. Now, a junior member of the Shark Cup team, Eli Kalajarius, is in the plate final. So this is sort of like the handicap final for those who didn't make the top end of town.
Yes. Yeah.
He plays South Australian cricket coach Ryan Harris. He's got no hope, does he, Eli? I mean, Ryan Harris is winning everything right now. There isn't a title he doesn't turn up and take. So, Eli, bad luck, mate. I know it's on Sunday, 2 days' time, but Eli, congratulations on making the final, but you know you're going to to blown away by our boy Ryan Harris.
It's a bit intimidating, isn't it?
Final.
Big Rhino's a burly boy too.
Old titles, Chicks Harris over there. Yeah. He's going to take out the A-grade plate as well. The Monday headline is where we finish off, Tom. What do you reckon we're going to see in the paper in the Advertiser on Monday? Back
I
page.
reckon it'll be Bring on the Pies. It'll be Collingwood are playing the Crows, and it'll be Bring it on. We know the animosity between the sides, and the media, us, we will be loving it.
I've got Crow's worst nightmare if it is Port Adelaide, if it is Collingwood who turns up next weekend. But I've got demons at the door. Melbourne survives Carlton and Adelaide gets its finals assignment. I just reckon it'll be Adelaide versus Melbourne next week.
Love it.
A little bit overtime, Tom, but we've done a pretty good job there. Love talking to you, mates. One of my favourite parts of my week. We will find some time next week somehow. I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that, but looking forward to doing it all again, mate. Have a good read tonight.
You're a champion. Thanks so much, Hookie. Catch up next week.
On you, mate. See ya.
See you, mate.